I'm hosting a virtual event on May 31st called Rise and Revitalize, an online gathering to enliven and embrace the wild bloom of becoming. And I'm excited to share that today's guest on the project will be one of the speakers at that event. I also had the pleasure of featuring Azra Bertrand and Zoe Kian for this project, both of whom will be joining us as speakers as well. The next episode will feature our fourth speaker for the event, so you can look out for that. And you can find more details about the gathering, the speakers, including information on the content of their talks on the Eventbrite page that is linked in the show notes. So over the past few weeks, I've been sharing about A Year to Live, a year-long group initiation into the heart of impermanence designed to support a conscious deepening into allyship with death. And due to some personal shifts in my life, including a long summer journey driving from Guatemala to Canada, I've decided to change the start date of this container to September. So this gives you more time to reflect on whether this journey feels right for you. This year-long experience will invite a small, intimate circle to explore the question, what becomes truly essential when we live as though we have only one more year? It's a space for embracing grief, fear, and praise while cultivating a deep devotion to living life with purpose. We'll dive into the vital mysteries of impermanence, tend to unfinished business, and explore both collective insight and personal integration. I'll share more about A Year to Live as we approach September, but if you feel a curiosity stirring now, reach out and we can slowly tend to that curiosity together. To support this big journey I'm embarking on, traveling overland with 2 adopted dogs, one rescued from the streets of Guatemala, all the way to Canada, I'm offering 25% off all my counseling packages for anyone who commits by mid-June. This means you can secure the discounted rate now and begin working with me whenever it best suits you, whether that's right away or later. I'll be available to support you throughout my travels, so no worries about that. This offer is both a way to generate essential funds for my journey and, of course, an opportunity to share my unique gifts with those who feel called to this work. I'll be working on the road, so no worries about starting right away. I'm here to support you from wherever I am along the way. I'll share more about the counsel that I offer after introducing today's conversation, but if you're interested, you can also visit my website, linked in the show notes, for in-depth details, and know that I offer free insight calls. I've also just launched a new Substack publication called Hearthwoven. I shared the introductory essay last week, reflecting on the rich and multi-layered mythic meaning behind the name and why it feels significant to me. Hearthwoven will be a home for essays, poetry, podcast episodes, and bonus content, including expanded conversations from this project eventually. And I would love to have you there as an early subscriber. For now, all the offerings are freely available, with the likelihood of a modest paywall in the future to help sustain the creative energy behind all that I create. Now, let's introduce today's conversation. Welcome to Wild Heart Revival, a gathering place for heartfelt conversations and stories as pathways of renewal and revival. I'm your host, Tay Tayari, and today's guest is Georgia Peck. Georgia joins us for a journey into the heart of health, revealing how true wellness is rooted in connection, both within ourselves and with the living world around us. Drawing from her own healing journey, she shares insights on listening to the body's signals, restoring natural rhythms, and embracing symptoms as vital messages to be understood, respected, and honored. We also explore the connective power of foraging, ritual, and the sweetness of simplicity. Georgia reminds us that health is not a static state, but a living, evolving relationship, one that deepens as we honor the body, the land, and the natural rhythms of life. Georgia Peck is a holistic health coach devoted to helping others reconnect with their body's natural wisdom through ancestral living, natural detox, and cyclical alignment. She believes health is rooted in nature, connection, real nourishment, and giving our body the environment to heal itself and prevent dis-ease. If you are new to the show, welcome. You may like to know that I'm a threshold counselor with an online practice devoted to supporting wanderers, and edgewalkers. I offer individual, couples, and group counsel, as well as guidance around death and dying. If you'd like to learn more, you'll find a link to my website in the show notes. I also offer free insight calls, risk-free spaces where we can connect, explore our alignment, and see if we're a good fit to walk alongside each other through a pivotal chapter of your life. I'm always open to meaningful connections, whether for guidance, curiosity, collaboration, or simply to share in a heartfelt conversation. If you feel called, feel free to reach out anytime. And if you haven't yet, I invite you to subscribe to Wild Heart Revival on your favorite podcast platforms, and consider joining us on YouTube as well to tune into the video component of the project. Your likes, comments, ratings, and shares are deeply appreciated, and they play an essential role in supporting the organic growth of these heartfelt conversations and stories. Now, let's journey into the heart of health, where body and earth merge, with our dear guest for today, Georgia Peck. I am very curious to know what's feeling most alive in you these days. What might be stirring beneath the surface? What's drawing your attention? What do you feel? Where do you feel a gravity in your life?
So, as we've come out of winter, and I like to live quite seasonally, so if I can slow down, I will. And since it's become spring, I have felt a lot of inspiration to follow my mission, which is about holistic health, root cause healing, and really kind of going quite hard at it and really committing to that path and making it happen. And for a while, I have created a lot of content for other people and filmed a lot of events and done the other people's editing. And
Mm,
now is like almost like my time to put energy into my stuff and my business. And
mm,
yeah, it feels it's a very creative process as well with me creating my own content, and I take my filmmaking skills and apply it to the way I, present my health information, and yeah, in a way that's pretty cinematic, and that feels really great for me to do.
mhm,
Um, but yeah, I feel really alive for this because I've suffered a long time in my life with mental, physical health, and this feels like something I need to bring to the
mm,
world. And it's something that's always been a continuous thread for me, which is health and getting to, or just constantly asking the question of what is healthy? What is the thing that can help us heal? And
mhm,
because I feel like I've had to ask that question
mm,
for many years. And now I'm healthy. I feel like I need to share it because
mm,
so many of us are still struggling and suffering, and I don't feel like we have to.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, so it's such an important question, and it's so dynamic and complex. And yet I'm very curious to hear how you might answer it in this moment. What is healthy? What is health?
I feel like it is connection in one word, connection to our body and nature, each other, our cells connecting with each other, our organs working in a symbiotic relationship without blockages. And yeah, that's how I would describe it.
Mm, mhm. Connection. Yeah. So how do you see that showing up most obviously in your life these days? Connection.
Well, I feel like I'm on my side right now. And for a while, I feel like my body was this. this thing that was against me and kind of disconnected from me and where I wanted to be, how I wanted to feel. Um, so I feel most connected to my body and it shows up, and I feel like my what I want and what I can create can actually happen rather than this disconnection of like, oh, I want to create this, well, but I can't because I don't have energy, or I'm having a gut health flare, or I'm screaming on the floor with period pain. It's like
Mm,
there's a flow now.
mm, yeah. Yeah, the flow. And I mean, obviously that comes from some kind of different deepening quality of listening, because of course we can't be in real and reverent connection with anything, including ourselves, parts of ourselves, if we don't have a real deepened sense of listening. Is that how you're understanding it yourself as well?
Yeah. I mean, the symptoms we experience, whether they're good or bad, or good or bad, is just a communication with our body and mind and drawing our attention to what needs listening to. So I would definitely say that is something that is pretty big in all of us. It's just sometimes we can't even slow down enough to listen, or we're afraid of listening because what might be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'm so curious how you understand that communication. What what kind like it to me in my experience, the communication is multifaceted and um I'm attuning more recently into my imaginal capacities as well, paying more attention to moments of daydream, paying attention to night dreams, also allowing myself to be taken by moments of reverie, and even going into consciously curated like visionary states or imaginal states. So that's like one very diverse and complex aspect of the communication that I'm noticing with myself as well as with my environment. What are some other ways that that communication shows up for you? What are you noticing?
Well, I feel like we are very receptive and we can have that ability to be very receptive to everything around us. And
Mm,
it's almost like there is too much communication sometimes, like our eyes, our ears, our touch, our
mm,
senses, everything is like constant communication, is constant like input of information. And the filtering out is, yeah, it's the job of the mind and body. And there can be so much communication if you just like stand in a forest and you can hear all the birds and how that's communicating to your nervous system and your mind to signal safety. And
mm,
there's like nature, music.
mm, mhm.
Yeah, everything can communicate with us.
Yeah, yeah. And that's so interesting because when you were kind of introducing it there, I had this sense of like there's so much happening, it's kind of overwhelming. And I was feeling and almost experiencing the sensation of like being in a town or in a city or like amidst a crowd or online on social media or something. And then when you dropped it into that forest scene, I could just feel even just from you bringing that in, just like a deepening and a relaxing. But it wasn't like there was less communication. There
hmm
was maybe even more diversity of communication, but there's something about that natural web of communication that is like the opposite of overwhelming, and yet it's more complex. It's a very strange paradox. I'm curious if you have any kind of inquiry on that thread there.
I feel like the difference in what you said was like your mind went to city and mine went to nature, and they're very different kinds of of stimulus, of ways of communicating with us, with the environment. And I think when we put ourselves in situations where it's like cities, it's very unnatural to our human bodies, even though we're modern humans now. Our bodies, as you probably know, and everyone knows, they're ancient, and we are, I feel like, way more able to receive the communication and signals from a natural landscape than something like a city. It's very overwhelming. Whereas, like, even a waterfall that sounds so loud can be like not overwhelming to our system.
Mm-hmm. You can
It's like a
even,
different input.
yeah,
Yeah.
it can be like massaging, like an internal massage. Yeah. Well, I'm thinking, you step into a forest and all the plant nations in that grove that you step into are all emitting phytochemicals that are then entering your system and like altering it in many different ways. Oftentimes, it seems in soothing ways that there's some kind of synergistic um, relationship between you and the plants that you're just surrounded by in any given moment. And then you have the soil you're stepping on is also emitting um, all kinds of medicines and pheromones and whatnot, but also like magnetism that like aligns with the rhythms of your body. And so there's all these like layers of communication, and they seem to be oriented toward rooting you into that place, like welcoming you. Not to say it's all right. You could go and eat a berry and get really sick or maybe die, or, there's certainly things that aren't there to be synergistic with the human system. But overall, in my experience, there seems to be this natural welcoming that
Mhm.
a natural space offers to us, like a welcoming to like, hey, come here and root for a moment, and we're going to help you by offering all these different kinds of communications. And when I go into a city, a town, if I go online, like I was mentioning, it feels like the opposite to me. It feels like there's so many communications happening that are actually making me feel unwelcome. If you're in a city that is more catered to pedestrians, like there's walking streets and the cafes are nice and there's plants, then you feel elements of what a forest or a watershed can offer. But on the whole, it's like concrete, loud noises, so many things, right angles, people, cacophony of noises that aren't natural. And so for me, I'm just reflecting this moment. It's like this, it's like not a welcoming thing. There's something really important in that because I'm realizing like what's happening at a deep level if you don't feel an authentic welcoming into a space. It's no mystery to me in that line of inquiry as to why I can feel kind of anxiety or like overwhelmed or frustrated, easily angered too. I notice like I go into the town, I'm living on the edge of a Mayan town here in Guatemala. I go into the town and it's all concrete and noise and all these things. And it's hot because the concrete just like holds the heat, and like one little thing will happen and I can feel like anger rise up. It's like I don't feel that when I'm at my home here in the forest, really at all, ever. It's just fascinating, right? All these communications are actually shaping, like they're shaping our perception of self and other. And so then shaping our interaction with self and other. Yeah, fascinating.
Wow.
Do,
Yeah.
do you have anything to say about that?
I feel like you said it all. Yeah. Yeah, I guess the only thing I'd have to add is maybe that a lot of us don't notice that a lot of us are so like very
Mhm.
desensitized to that kind of input, and
Right.
that it's you notice the anger coming up when you're in a town, but and you can kind of recognize it. And I feel like so many of us kind of don't. They're like just frustrated, and maybe that's just frustration,
Mm,
right? Rather than like noticing, oh, this is probably overwhelm from the immense amount of things going on right now in the our natural environment, even so much as like the heat from the concrete,
mm,
whereas the soil probably wouldn't overheat like that.
mm.
Really
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah. It's so interesting. So I'm curious what kinds of, I don't know if you'd word it like this, but I'm sure you'll know what I mean. What kinds of ancestral threads that or practices that you are consciously weaving into your path of learning, your path of healing, your path of becoming who you're here to become.
I really like um, the pagan thread because it's very seasonal and it's very about nature. So
Mm,
I mean, we're all very aware of like summer solstice and like the names of like Beltane and Ostara. I mean, maybe not, but I really like following that practice and studying that. And I like how they really kind of, I guess, worship nature and they really honor it and recognize the seasons.
mm,
And I guess another like ancestral earth practice is just like something like foraging. It's really going completely right back to the basics of what our ancestors did all over the world, no matter where you're from, is where you get your food. And foraging can really connect you to nature and the land. What is around? When is it around? Where does it grow? What does it look like in spring, in summer, and winter? And kind of mapping this web of different plants that are available in the different seasons and how our ancestors would have access to that too. There's a lot of like fruits and vegetables that we have modified and would be completely unrecognizable to our ancestors. But there's so many like plants that grow in the wild that maybe haven't changed anywhere near as much
mm,
without our a human interaction because they're seen as like weeds or things like that. And we kind of have lost that knowledge, that ancestral wisdom of what each plant can do around us in nature. So
mm.
I really like that practice too.
Yeah, yeah. A profound realization I had once when I was living in the Pacific Northwest in Canada, and I was living on Vancouver Island, and I was foraging because there's so much abundance of food there. It's a temperate rainforest. There's so many berries and mushrooms, all kinds of things. And I was foraging, and it just dawned upon me at some point of like, when I consume these living beings that have been raised in this landscape, I am consuming this landscape. And because I am what I eat, that means that I'm becoming this landscape. And I mean, it's obvious, right? But it's actually very profound because when you think about how most folks eat, including myself for most of my life. It's like go to a grocery store. Hopefully there's a farmer's market, then that's better. But go to a grocery store, you grab your veggies and whatever, and they could be coming from all kinds of places. I mean, in Canada, in the winter, you're getting veggies from like Mexico, Guatemala, like so far away. And how does that affect us in deep ways that we can't even begin to understand when you're consuming food that was raised on lands that are so far away by hands that are so different from your own. There's beauty in that in a way, but at the same rate, it makes sense to me how people would feel so disconnected or wouldn't even recognize the disconnection that they have to the actual particular landscapes that they're living amongst. And there's something about foraging that really is this like incredible doorway into reconnecting um, and becoming the landscape that you live amidst. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
And like it's kind of a way to feel like part of nature again, because there
Hmm.
is this notion that we are separate from the natural world when it's like we are that. We are literally nature.
Hmm. Yeah. And the landscape you're living in is affecting you in ways beyond your comprehension, including like your health in so many ways. Air quality, water quality, all these kinds of things, right? And because Earth is always self-organizing and self-healing and adjusting to take care of the all the myriad children of Earth, it makes sense to me that if you wanted to be as healthy as possible, that you would be eating with the land that you're living amidst, because that land is constantly altering its functions and its medicines to care for that particular locale. So it's like the plants in your landscape are there to care for you, not just in like a spiritual way, like just in a fundamental like survival way. It's kind of something I'm realizing right now too. Um, yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. So did you grow up with this pagan lens at all? It's something.
No, I mean, I grew up in a very like um average way in the UK. You know, you go to school and you eat from supermarkets, from packets. My parents did try to eat like I guess a more balanced diet. Like I wasn't really allowed a lot of junk food, but it still wasn't, like wild meat or grass-fed beef. So yeah, this has all come from me learning about it and being interested in it.
Mhm. Was it your challenges with health that really propelled you into that interest?
For sure.
Yeah.
Like, if I didn't have health issues in the past, I wouldn't have a reason to really dive so deep into so many different healing modalities and cultures and ancient things like Ayurveda or Chinese medicine. There wouldn't be a need for me to be so interested in it. And it was almost like you could say it's kind of selfish in a way, like why I did that, because I wanted myself to heal. It wasn't for any other reason apart from like I'm suffering and I want to not suffer. And so I looked into, yeah, all kinds of um, information, and that's how I kind of gathered it.
Yeah, that framing's interesting, right? So it's like you could say it's selfish, but at the same rate, what you were mentioning earlier is now you're at this stage in your life where you feel like you have to give information, that you now have gifts that have been forged through your suffering and your selfishness, that now you can't help but give of that. So there's some kind of like incredible intelligence in it all, and actually some kind of amazing blessing in your suffering, which is very fascinating. Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think the initial intention wasn't to spread this information. It was just like, I need to be well.
Yeah.
But there was obviously some kind of bigger picture here and grander plan that my
Hmm.
purpose might be that. And
Hmm.
that's why I had to go through all that what I did to be able to do what I do now and giving medicine to the world, shining light on things that shouldn't be normal. Um,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I noticed that you also seem to shine light on things that are becoming normalized in the kind of health world. I don't know what we would call that, but the health-oriented spaces online and the kind of overculture in the health world, that you seem to shine lights on things that are becoming normalized, and then you seem to push back against them. Specifically, it seems speaking for women. Am I speaking to that? Yeah. So what are some of those things that you feel are becoming part of the dominant narrative, that you really are cautious about, and that you want to speak up uh, for yourself and for women in relation to these narratives? Was that clear? I was kind of
Yeah,
stumbling.
it's very clear. Um, a massive one, I guess, is like the normalization of period pain, of migraines, like
Mm,
nausea, PMS, extreme depression, all around our cycle as women. Like our cycle is a large chunk of our life as a woman. I
mm,
know we don't always have it, you would go through menopause, but there is just this like normalized culture of I'm just on my period, like I just have this pain. And doctors are very much in this normalization process as well. Women suffering go to the doctor, they're like, oh yeah, it's just the part of being a woman. Here's
mm,
some birth control, or here's some heavy duty pain medication, or let's look if someone keeps going back over and over because they feel in their body something is not right. Like if someone is in debilitating pain with ovulation or with periods, something is not right.
mm,
And so they go back to the doctor and maybe they'll do a scan, maybe they find something, some kind of like maybe ovarian cysts, endometriosis tissue, um, and they'll want to surgically remove it, and it's just like a consistent, unnatural process. And yeah, I think the normalization of that problem is something that is really um, something that I want to change
mhm, mhm.
and denormalize it.
Yeah, I imagine that it's very complex how that's become a dominant narrative. But why do you think that that's normalized? Is it just kind of laziness? Is it ignorance? How do you see that?
I would I would say it's potentially a few things, like the fact that, a lot of studies haven't been done on women, predominantly because of our hormones. We're too complex. There's too many variable factors.
Right.
So there hasn't been enough, I guess, scientific study into the way our hormonal cycles work. And so there might have just been a lack of attention on what is actually considered normal. I think also maybe the gradual process of kind of processed foods, unnatural ways of living, artificial light, a gradual disconnection from nature and our local land, maybe even a disconnection from our bodies, has kind of happened in a way that's kind of we didn't really notice it happening until it was like, okay, every woman these days seems to have a lot of period pain and a lot of symptoms like that, that now they're like, oh, we don't really know how this happened. Um, I don't think it's just like one thing that has
Mhm,
created this scenario, but
mhm. Yeah, I sense that there's a lot of dominant narratives today that have come to be like that successionary process that you described, where it's just all these little ways, or not even little, but all these different ways in which I guess, where we've reoriented our perception and our focus on certain things. And in that reorientation, we've turned away from fundamental aspects of what it means to be a human animal. And it's something that civilization has done really good at, is turned us away from our animality, which of course, and then there's this like wondering of why, like of why there's so many different sicknesses that are predominant in civilized countries, which are most countries. I mean, but like in the civilized world, heart disease and cancer and these major illnesses that are so almost normalized. And to me, intuitively, I don't feel that that's a normal expression of an animal population. That to me shows that there's something incredibly imbalanced. And I guess I'm just wondering right now of how much that has to do with all these different ways that we've turned away from our animality and reoriented toward industry, technology, and and becoming kind of this ultimate civilized ideal, um, in order to fulfill some kind of ultimate function that we think we're here to fulfill, that isn't just very simply being human and learning how to care for ourselves and each other. and to live in rhythm with the natural rhythms of Earth.
Well, it's everything to do with it. That's, I believe, our environment, our lifestyle, the way we exist now has created all of this stuff. It's like we have so many EMFs all around us. We use lights that, we would have had firelight. Maybe not even that, even way, way back. We have added things to our water, our food. We put polyester in our clothes, when we wear polyester. We are working a lot more like into the night, and there's alcohol, there is like so much processed food. There's just so many things. And like it has absolutely everything to do with all of these little changes that have now added up to one massive picture of what it is to be in a domesticated society that's also really enjoying convenience and this like modern creation that we've created.
Yeah, yeah. But the convenience is so inconvenient in this strangely paradoxical way because how much of our energy and resources are going toward managing symptoms that are simply arising out of our neglect of just fundamental aspects of who we really are.
Yeah.
It's so
It's
strange.
convenient in the short term, but the long term, it's like so much harder. And if you think about how our ancestors lived, it's very inconvenient, like super inconvenient. We have to build our own houses by our hands and
Mm,
hunt our food,
mm,
forage our food,
mm.
make our own clothes with animal skins or natural fibers. It takes a long time. It's like, yeah, it's super
Yeah.
inconvenient, but
Mm,
yeah, it's important to kind of implement some of it back so that we can kind of have a balance. It's not about like going all the way back to caveman times. It's like, how can we reintroduce natural ways of living that work for our body and mind into this modern world that doesn't mean we have to just be on one scale of the other.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, and I'm just thinking how like hunting and foraging, for example, not only are you procuring food and sustenance, nourishment, for you and your people, but you're also exercising, you're also getting sunlight, you're also getting all those medicines and whatnot we were talking about when you're in a natural space. You're connecting you're connecting your natural capacity for synesthesia, connecting all your senses into one mode of being. You're relating to the people you love in deeply meaningful ways by accomplishing goals and caring for each other. There, and the list goes on, right? So just in the act of this inconvenience of procuring food for you and your people, you're actually doing all these other things that people then in their time off after working an 8-hour day or something, they go pay for red light therapy. They go pay a gym to exercise for an hour with machines. They go pay whatever, right? So it's like the the inconvenience of that is actually um it's actually incredibly convenient in the sense that it's tending to so many of your needs. So so yeah, it's just an interesting realization I'm having again in this conversation. I appreciate you um, inspiring these moments. And I'm wondering, you said that we need to like reinstate some of these natural ways, these natural rhythms of being. And I know, of course, you're doing that yourself. Are you also working with folks to do that? And if you are, if you're not, I'm still wondering, what are the challenges that you're noticing? Like, what are the difficulties you're recognizing in doing that? And how do you work with those challenges?
Yeah. So I have one-on-one clients, and I obviously do create free content online, and people interact with me. I get lots of messages, people sharing their struggles and also their wins. And I'm creating like a group coaching container, so I'll have even more
Mm,
um, access to how people are working. There is a lot of resistance, I found, like a
mm,
huge amount of resistance to changing the lifestyle, changing even like the diet, even going outside in first thing in the mornings when someone is so used to like their routine of
mm,
waking up, looking at their phone, getting a coffee, rushing out the door with maybe a piece of toast or something, and then the only sunlight they get is like the 1 minute walk to their car or something. It's like I find it's even when people are really suffering and want to change, the lifestyle shifts, even if they're so simple, like go outside for 10 minutes when you wake up barefoot, is like it feels like a large barrier to them because it's not in their automatic system. So I find that that's a big challenge for people. Also like a sugar addiction as well. Just the cravings, not wanting to kind of, well, they do want to, but the body is like
mm,
signaling they want sugar, they want carbs, they want the processed foods, and it makes sense. It's addictive. And also we're a population where we never parasite cleanse. And so we have all of these parasites that also make us crave sugar more and things like candida and bacterial overgrowth. And so it can be hard for people to shift their diet when that is exactly what's going to heal them as well as a whole lifestyle shift. So with that, it's like I really try and work with their vision and where they want to be, who they see themselves as, and what
mm,
kind of commitment you have to make to yourself to see your version now as maybe someone struggling with XYZ and the version who has the future they want and has the energy they want, and to just keep tapping into who is that person
yeah.
who is able to kind of make those shifts, and that commitment can become easier. Then they wake up and they go outside instead of just that automatic check the phone. Um, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that's so important. You speak of nervous system regulation, and we've been kind of dancing around the topic in different ways today. But I think it's something that's so vitally important for everyone today, contending with the machinations of modernity. And so I'd love to just talk about that and what you're coming to learn about nervous system regulation, um, both at the more obvious level of it, but also the subtle aspects of it.
The nervous system is something that was the very first thing that I came across and studied that really shifted like a lot of things. I didn't realize, apart from, the biology sessions we have in school, just how much of an impact the nervous system has over literally everything in our body and mind. And something that I used to think was like having a healthy nervous system meant feeling kind of regulated all the time, not really being fazed by much. But it's actually like a healthy nervous system is one that kind of can bounce around in accordance to the environment. It's there to protect us ultimately, and it's sensing data. But like the ventral vagal, which is, calm, connected, is a healthy response. The sympathetic fight flight is a normal response. It's not normal when it's something that doesn't actually show danger, like when we have PTSD, which
Mm,
is something I experienced for a while, feeling this constant fight flight response, even though there was like nothing going on. And then, the dorsal vagal, which is complete shutdown collapse. All of these, this the ventral, the vagus ladder is super normal and healthy. It's like we want to feel that. We want to be able to feel all those levels, and it's normal. the issue is when we get stuck in one of those states and we just can't get out, particularly, dorsal or sympathetic. You don't want that with shutdown, depression, or chronic anxiety, and that can play into gut issues and just this sense of unsafety. And yeah, it's the nervous system is a fascinating thing. And with the chronic illness aspect, I experienced chronic nausea. Like every single day, I felt like I was going to throw up.
Mm.
And it was like that for like a year and a half, 2 years, every single day. Like it just wouldn't shift. And the doctors gave me like really strong anti-nausea medication because they were like, we don't know, but if you can't eat or sleep because you feel like you're going to puke, we need to stop that because you will die eventually, if you can't eat. So it was a long time before I was able to really study the nervous system and but even making the tiniest little every single day nervous system practices to build up the trust within the body, to build up a sense of safety and capacity and trust inside of our somatic body is like so important because we can do all the mindset work we want, but nothing I feel is really going to shift until we like get into the body and we do bottom up rather than top down. That's why a lot of talk therapy doesn't work because you're just running around loops constantly. But the memories of the body, they remember. The body keeps the score, as Bessel van Kolk says. So yeah, it's just this
Mhm.
wonderful system we have that can sense so many things that we can't even realize. And every reaction, I believe, is for a very real reason, whether it's imagined, like something in PTSD where your body is sensing something that isn't there,
Mm.
but there's this like felt memory of danger versus when something is actually there, it's a survival mechanism. And yeah, paying attention to how our body feels in any environment or interaction can really give us a lot of data and information and a sense of also trust within our body. Like if something feels off, maybe there actually is, even if everything feels fine
Mm.
under the surface, on the surface.
Yeah, that's such an important point that might not be realized by many, where the more times you don't listen to those um, deep and some oftentimes subtle communications, every time you don't listen, you're turning away from your body and your nervous system's innate capacity to guide you intelligently. And every time you turn away, then that system and its integrative capacity, um, it lessens or it diminishes or um, it atrophies. It becomes sick. It becomes dysregulated. So part of the healing of the nervous system then, of course, would be to, as you're saying, like attend to those subtleties, those communications, and like practice listening and taking action from those moments. And just that, just like basically just the energetic orientation to be like, hey, nervous system, I'm paying attention now and I'm willing to listen and take action from your cues. That just right there builds some kind of bridge of trust. But I'm wondering, you mentioned like little practices throughout the day. Could you provide some examples? I'm so curious.
Yeah. So when we're experiencing a very dysregulated nervous system, we don't want to overload the system with more like protocols. And when I work with clients, people who come with very extreme anxiety and like fear, you don't want to overload the system. It's a really bad idea. So the little practices, little and often, is I feel one of the best ways to really start connecting with the nervous system and essentially heal the nervous system. So one very good practice is the VU breath, which is where you just breathe deeply into the stomach and it's a very long exhale using the VU sound. So it's like it's creating this vibration and it's like toning our vagus nerve and the long exhale, parasympathetic state, and the vibration is very good for our vagal nerve.
And
Even just
on that, I saw recently that when we pair our exhales with humming like that, that the amount of nitric oxide that is produced and released is like 10 or 20x like times than just like a normal exhale without a hum, which is also
mm,
very good for us to detox. So yeah,
yeah,
very
and
interesting.
there's
Sorry, I
nitric
cut
oxide.
you off. I just thought that was an interesting tag on there.
Yeah, I mean nitric oxide is amazing for us. You can get that from just lying in the sun with UVA and UVB as
Mm,
well.
hmm.
But yeah, another practice would be just like deep belly breathing. This is a practice that like was so simple for me because I couldn't even hum or create that sound for a long time because I thought I was going to throw up. It would trigger
Oh,
my vagus nerve too much,
oh
and
wow.
it was just too much. So just be belly breathing, just like 5 breaths whenever you remember is kind of how I say it. Is like whenever you just remember, just take the breath from the chest into the belly,
Yeah.
and that kind of like soothes the body and signals safety.
Mhm.
Um, there was this you mentioned when we first started talking about your eyes kind of relaxing.
Oh yeah.
Um, this is like a really powerful thing to do. It seems like it wouldn't work or it's silly, but kind of like it's called eye yoga, which is kind of eye exercises. And every morning I used to do this for about 5 minutes where I would focus on something close. So I would stick my thumb out like this and I
Mm,
would look at it for 2 seconds and then I would look into the distance for six and I would just alternate between this.
mm,
And that can really help the nervous system as well. And then also like that opening the vision, kind of relaxing the eyes and allowing everything to kind of, I don't know how you describe it, but allowing, yeah, your vision to just open rather than just constantly focusing on stuff, to just relax the eyes and take in the landscape can
mhm,
help. And also, um, I would take my thumb as well and kind of like follow my eyes with my thumb moving left to right slowly. And that can also help too. So, eye
mhm.
exercises.
Yeah, and I've noticed that like with that open vision practice, for me at least, it is a practice. Like it's not so easy for me to just drop into that state where I'm not focusing on something. It's easier if you have like an open landscape. I think it's difficult if things are really close, but if you have like some kind of opening that you can gaze upon, and it is this intentional, like when you notice that you're focused on a thing in that landscape, to just invite your eyes to kind of attend more to the peripheral
Mhm,
potential of the gaze. And you'll notice that when you do that, all of a sudden you can actually see so much more, even though it's not clear, right?
mhm,
It's not so clear, it can be kind of fuzzy, but I notice all of a sudden out the side, like almost kind of supernatural at the side of my vision, I can attend to so much more movement and sensory data. But yeah, like I was describing before, for me, because I'm on the computer so much, and I think many folks these days are on their phones and computers so much, watching TV, that to have this practice of intentionally inviting your eyes to just relax, like the muscles to just be spacious is kind of the feeling that I go for. Just like inviting space into my visual cortex. Um, it's very profound. You notice it right away when it happens. So yeah.
yeah. And doing that for just like a couple minutes a day can really help.
Hmm.
And the key, I feel like, is not to just practice the exercises when you feel anxious, but to do it even when you're feeling okay.
That's right.
Yeah. Keep going on with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that is really taking a holistic perspective on your health and your life is recognizing that it's not about tending to symptoms. Like, yes, symptoms are important communications to tend to when they arise. And in those moments where you feel like relatively okay or hopefully pretty good, like that's when you can probably get the most out of these ways of caring for yourself. Um, like I have to invite my clients to do that often. Like when you're feeling good, like that's the moment. Like go outside, go for a walk, go to the river, like put your feet in, breathe deeply, and because then you're going to be in training your because when your system is kind of dysregulated and symptomatic, um, you're like kind of heightened, and then you're trying to come down back to a baseline of sorts. But when you're near that baseline, and you engage in these ways, these modes of being and these practices, then you're strengthening that baseline. You're kind of like anchoring your system into that more balanced state.
Yeah. And some other things people can do is singing and humming, and if you can do it, gargling. I This was something I was super sensitive to, gargling, because it would trigger the gag reflex for me, but over time it gets a lot better.
And what is
Also,
that doing? Is that a vagus nerve thing too, the gargling?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's like directly here. That's why the singing, the humming, it's all kind of throat
Yeah.
activated.
Yeah.
Um, but also blood sugar plays a massive role in
Yeah.
our nervous system. So making sure that we're having enough fats and proteins, not really having too many carbs by themselves, because it can create a massive blood sugar spike.
Mm,
So yeah, just having a nourishing diet as well really nourishes our nervous system. We don't want to be on roller coaster of blood sugar. It can be very dysregulating for our system in a way that people don't really realize that that's actually connected. Even drinking, coffee on an empty stomach, really bad idea,
mm,
especially for anxiety. I see a lot of people like iced coffee in the mornings, but like give
mm,
it a miss,
yeah.
or have it after you've eaten like a nourishing breakfast.
Mm.
Good too.
And what is that doing? Because I think that's a very common practice. So when you, and I do that myself sometimes as well. So when you eat something nourishing, like you said, before coffee, what's happening there? Is it that you're just kind of fortifying your stomach and the stomach lining, and then you can absorb the coffee better, or
Well, when you wake up, we naturally have a cortisol spike because
yeah.
there is a connection between melatonin and cortisol. And as the melatonin drops, the cortisol rises, we wake up. And this cortisol spike is made even worse by people looking at blue screens first thing in the morning, because
Mhm.
it's just too much blue. And what we want to do is get outside, get the full spectrum of light, which helps cortisol naturally rise further.
Mm,
But when we put a coffee into an empty stomach, it's just like putting cortisol into cortisol. Like there's already cortisol.
mm,
We don't really need more. And if we feel sluggish and tired, it's a sign that something isn't quite right. And there could be so many reasons for that. But the coffee is basically a band-aid situation if someone's drinking that because they need like a pick-me-up, something to wake them up. Um, so it's just creating a sense of unsafety in the body because there's too much stress hormone going on in the body. When we eat something nourishing, like some eggs or even a steak for breakfast with some, I don't know, whatever seasonal fruits, it signals safety to the body. It
mm,
lowers the stress hormone,
mm,
and it also means that the coffee isn't hitting your stomach and going really quickly, to be absorbed. It's kind of got a bit of a barrier with all the food in there. It's not just immediately hitting your system.
mhm, mhm. Yeah. Yeah, again, I'm just thinking, and we're coming to the end here, but I just am thinking how obvious that is from an ancestral lens. It's like you wake up and the sun is rising, and so you wake up to the sun and you allow that light in, and you have a slow morning probably, and if you're going to put something into your body, it's probably going to be like wild water and seasonal local food. Um, there wasn't like the direct hit of coffee until very recently. And So yes, this slowness, and this is what I'm sensing in our conversation is really just like slow down, allow yourself to feel, like really tune into what's happening in the moment, what's happening in your environment, what's happening in your landscape, how you feel in relationship to it all, and like allow those feelings to guide you. And I love what you emphasized there of like create safety in your body. Like there's so much unsafety in the world right now. We don't have to give any examples. They're rampant, right? So it's like it seems like a radical act is in the face of all of the unsafety is to intentionally cultivate safety in your body. And who knows what's possible when that's like one of your main drivers through your days.
A lot is possible. I
Yeah.
feel like the best creative ideas can come in that safety when we're in nature, when we're kind of
Hmm.
bored almost. Yeah, if we are not choosing to nourish ourselves and create safety, it's like what are we doing? There is like we need to be on our own side. There is too much stimulation, there's too many things that aren't good for us out there that we need to honor our own temple and do the best that we can. Not to be perfect, but to be like, hey, yeah, I'm not gonna put an iced coffee into my stomach this morning. I'm gonna nourish myself because
Mm.
we need that. And you deserve to give yourself that. Everyone does because who else is going to do that for you? Like, we have to be our own advocate and really support ourselves, even if it takes an extra 10, 20 minutes. Like, the
Mm.
payoff is massive.
Mhm.
And if it's not immediately felt, it will be felt in 10, 20 years down the line.
Mhm. Yeah. Like, how can we just be a bit more tender and loving toward ourselves? And of course, we want to see that and feel that in the world. And it's that old adage of like, whatever you want to see in the world, you have to cultivate within. And so I love this thread of conversation and inquiry and action of like, just tend to yourself in a more loving way and see what unfolds. Probably some incredible, miraculous things. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing what you do, Georgia. It's a real gift. And um, I know it came from pain and suffering, and yet there's this incredible magic, mystery, and intelligence that has now led you to this point where you're able to support others in re-tenderizing, learning to love and care for their systems so that they can be integrated in a good way in their lives and in their relationships and deepen into connection. So thank you for everything that you do. And I really appreciate you joining this project today and having that rough start with tech and just being so sweet and present and caring throughout it all. Appreciate it a lot.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, we have all the time in the world. Like, why rush to different things? We miss it all.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on and asking such amazing questions.